That was
Welcome.
The Juice and the Juice
with
Box
Juice.
with Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The
Covering
Juice
the
Box
week
that was
wherever you
in listen to
professional
podcasts.
wrestling. And hello and welcome to the WrestleMania 40 prediction show here on the Juice Box. This is the night one prediction episode, and it's myself, Josh Isenberg, and Justin LaBar, the Chair Shot Reality guys, getting right back to it. Night one and night two, two separate episodes. I felt that it was big enough of a weekend to do such. Philadelphia this weekend, it's going to be a happening, as Gorilla Monsoon once said. As always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. The Juice Box you can find on Apple Podcasts, juicysteen.podbean.com. No longer on Google Podcasts because Google Podcasts is no longer a service, and still on Spotify, however. The Juice Box on Spotify. Really like listening to it on Spotify, just podcasts in general. I feel like it's a better interface. At times, you know, I do Apple Podcasts and Spotify podcasts with podcast listening, so it really varies at the end of the day. But if you guys listen to the Juice Box on any of them, that's great. But yeah, I had a great time here with the WrestleMania predictions with Josh and Justin. Hopefully, you know, you guys enjoyed the Wrestling for Sale SIP series. I was very proud of that interview that we got to do. He had me on his YouTube show, The Wrestling Collectors, I believe in early 2021, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2022. The years since the pandemic has really just meshed all together, or it seems like 10 years ago for something that happened last year. It's pretty wild, but a really great conversation I had with Wrestling for Sale about the Philly pop-up happening later this week, and just wrestling shirts and his fandom. He went to Bash at the Beach 95. Just a great interview, and it was a nice little hour chat we had, and thanks again to Wrestling for Sale for that interview, and can't wait for the pop-up. This past Tuesday, we had Triple Threat Theater with Josh Cross and Donnie. We dove all the way, all 40 years of WrestleMania, massive episode. Best matches, moments, our certain picks for favorite WrestleManias, some overrated stuff, dream matches that never happened. We picked our top 5 favorite manias of all time, our personal favorites for no reason other than our opinion. Really enjoyed any time we get to talk to those guys. Volume 4 of Triple Threat Theater, we've done 4 of those, really in-depth banter, debate style shows. So can't wait for Volume 5. Hopefully spring, early summer, we can hash one out to air for that time frame. Additionally, hopefully everybody did see that the logo has changed from the original Juice Box logo, which I love. That was what we started this whole rickety ship on, but I think it has a nice charm, an allure, if you will. But I'd like to, help the brand out a little bit more, and reached out to Extra Cooler at Extra Cooler on Instagram. Check out his work. His name is Nick. He is unbelievable with his graphic design. The design that he created, that we kind of went back and forth on little things to tweak, but it's a callback to my favorite company back in the day, World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and they had a pay-per-view called Fall Brawl, and the logo is a tribute to that pay-per-view and that logo. And I don't know, I was really excited to work with him on that. And then my friend Brad, I'd like to shout him out, Brad Martin. He did, he's doing a podcast. I believe it's on hold right now, but he's doing plenty of other video projects and such. But he also helped me with the new logo, and big shout out to him. We worked for quite a few hours just running through different ideas and such, but I thought it was all worth it. I think it looks great, and I'm very proud to have it. And thank you again to Brad and Extra Cooler for their contributions to the work. But let's get all that out of the way. I know, long intro, but you can skip ahead like 5 minutes. You know what you're doing. This is the WrestleMania prediction show. Night 1, Night 2 will be airing tomorrow. As wanted to separate them so you can listen to Night 1 before Night 1 and Night 2 before Night 2 instead of just one massive episode, because we all know this was going to be a long one. So without further ado, here are the WrestleMania 40 predictions right here on the Juice Box, featuring myself, Justin LaBar, and Josh Isenberg.
Well, it's WrestleMania season. We're officially on the paved road to Philadelphia, to WrestleMania 40. And here in the Juice Box, who else would join me in this insane 7+ hour, 2-night extravaganza to predict the whole thing than the two guys who, help me do this every other year, practically, on Chair Shot Reality. We have none other than Josh Isenberg, who always is here with me for PLEs, and the one and only Justin LaBar. You can hear him all weekend on Busted Open. Justin, Josh, how are you guys feeling as we are now days, hours away from arguably the biggest WrestleMania of all time?
It's the most wonderful time of year, Juice. WrestleMania season.
I got to second that. I mean, move over Santa Claus, move over the Easter Bunny. It's time for WrestleMania. I'm ready and excited to go.
Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny are fake. WrestleMania is real. So we've got 2 nights. It's a work. Santa Claus is real. Come on, they all know that at home. What are we talking about?
Yeah, the kids' dreams are dashed right now, Juice. Thanks. All the kids listening to the Juice Box, man.
The incredible non-18 to 49 demographic that's listening to the Juice Box is absolutely in shock by the stunning turn of events here and the open of this WrestleMania show. I'm so sorry to crush.
Yeah, I really hope you're not marketing to the below 18 crowd.
Really hoping we're not doing that, Juice. That could get you in some
No. This is an adult podcast, so we will head forth. Josh, I know you will be at WrestleMania. Justin, I know you'll be covering it all weekend. So, I mean, even though you're not going to be there, I know you're going to be, taking notes, being invested as one will be. 2 nights. Do you think, I'll start with you, Justin. Do you think these nights are pretty spread out with, the matches? They kind of threw them all together. I believe, 13 matches in total over the 2 nights. No Andre Battle Royal on the main card. It's going to be on SmackDown before. I don't know about that. But do you think that they spread it out evenly when they actually made 2 nights and spread out the 7 and 6 matches accordingly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, aside from the what we knew weeks ago, which is of course the tag match for night 1, and then the straight up Roman versus Cody for night 2, they pretty much, if you're picking teams in gym class, they pretty much divvy it up pretty even. You got a women's title match on each night. You got a men's mid card title on each night, separated, and then we just look at the other stories and balance. I don't think on paper, other than The Rock being in an advertised match, that would be the only thing I could say that you could say there's an edge to one night or the other. But even that, I think we can all agree that the fact that the whole climax to whatever this story is going to take place on night 2, and The Rock could probably be seen anyways. Yeah, I think it's
right. Right. And Josh, do you think the balance of tag, gimmick matches, singles matches, title matches, do you think it's balanced over the 2 nights? I know LaBar mentioned there that regardless of the undercard, we all know that the focus and the focal point of this entire weekend is really on 5 total guys, if you don't count CM Punk as being on commentary, because he's pretty important in the whole Drew-Seth storyline. But do you think it's a pretty overall nice balance for the 2 nights?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at the first night, you have a very heavy tag team, 6-woman match that is really scattered through that first night, which I think is a good thing. I think night 2 is more focused on those one-on-one battles, those one-on-one rivalries. And when you look at the first night, I mean, you have, and we're going to dive into this, you only have, 3 of the 7 being actual singles matches, not like it's WrestleMania 2000 where there was really no one-on-one matches. But you look at the card, I think they did a really good job at giving each night their own kind of flavor. The first night is based on chaos and, what could happen. And night 2 is more consistent with, the one-on-one matches, the LA Knight Styles, the women's championship match, the world championship. And also you look at the first night, it's not like you don't have titles on the line for that one either. You have the tag titles, you have the one women's title, the IC title. So I think that they did a really good job at making sure each night has their own flavor. And I'm looking forward to, tasting both flavors there in Philadelphia. So
I'm sure you are. And to taste all of the juice out of this weekend, I'm sure it will be exciting. Let's dive into night one. I don't really know where to start, so I'm going to go with the match that's kind of been thrown together. I say last minute, yet I feel like there's more juice to be squeezed out of this match. We've got the Latino World Order, Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, taking on Santos Escobar and Dirty Dom Mysterio. It's bizarre to me that Dom is not involved with any, Judgment Day happenings as it were to be. But, Damian Priest and Finn Balor got their own, insane tag ladder match to go forth. Rhea is going to be involved in her title match all in the same night. Judgment Day is going to be involved here. But I do like the pairing of Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee, just in the fact that, every time Dragon Lee, Santos have had interactions on SmackDown, I think have been fantastic in any of the matches that they've had. And now you incorporate, Hall of Famer, legend, Rey Mysterio and his son, who went one-on-one last year, in the history, of course, that they have. I like this dynamic of a tag match, but do you think anything fishy happens? Do we potentially see a Bad Bunny interaction if things go awry, in regards to Dom and his dirty tactics? LaBar, do you think there's any chance we see the Bad Rabbit?
No, there's definitely a chance. It's WrestleMania, so there's definitely a chance. Obviously, and there's history, so it wouldn't, the fans should understand it. Yeah, it's a little bit out of nowhere, but at the same time, they've been teasing Dom. He's been doing different things, kind of going off his own, just despite Judgment Day disapproval of that. And it's a way to get him on the card. Because like you said, you have Rhea, you have Priest and Finn, so it's a way to get him on there. I'm picking Mysterio and Dragon Lee. I suspect that whatever happens here will be one piece of the puzzle of what I'm going to guess is going to be the beginning of the end, or at least some implosion of the Judgment Day and the members this weekend.
Josh, do you think the Judgment Day implodes, or does Dom take this win? And, we'll get to the rest, but do you think Dom takes this win here and really puts his father in his place?
No, I think Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee will pick up the victory here. It is kind of thrown together, even though there is that history between Rey and Dom, but we haven't really seen that on television until a few weeks ago. Rey being off TV for a while, and the call-up of Dragon Lee, they had him for a few matches on SmackDown, nothing that was really consistent. When you look at Dragon Lee, he's a guy that has all the potential in the world to be, I don't think anybody can be the next Rey Mysterio, but if there is somebody that can be crowned the next Rey Mysterio, it's Dragon Lee. I am surprised, I think, a little bit that they didn't capitalize on Andrade, because there is that storyline that's been going on since Andrade returned with, Dom and really the Judgment Day. And obviously with Andrade, he could fit in very easily, maybe replacing a Dragon Lee if they wanted to go that route. But that's probably a little too rushed. I think right now he's kind of like the hired gun, or the potential hired gun for the Judgment Day if they want to go that route. But I think this match is going to be a good 10 to 12 minute, high flying match. The interesting thing to me with this entire match is, Santos Escobar obviously turned on the LWO, and I think the better match would have been just a one-on-one with him and Rey Mysterio, maybe with Dom and Santos' side, and then Rey Mysterio having, whether it's Dragon Lee or whomever, backing him up. But again, I think it's going to be just a good, I don't want to say a bathroom break match, because I think that's disrespectful to all the talent, but a match that's going to be, second, third, or fourth in this card on, Saturday night. And you're just going to get what you're going to expect, a simple match with some good spots. And again, continuing to really capitalize on the father versus son dynamic that never gets old. But at this time last year, this was probably the hottest storyline, one of the hottest storylines going into WrestleMania.
Yeah. And it, there have been rumblings, and I'd considered maybe we'll get a rematch. I don't know if they would have really rehashed that between Rey and Dom, and whether that would have been like a hair versus mask match, because, Dom loves his his long mullet, and Ray, of course, the legacy with his mask. Although he was unmasked before, but we don't like to talk about that here. We already disparaged the name of the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, so we don't want to throw away the legacy of Rey Mysterio's mask, although WCW did do that back in 1999. But yeah, it's not a bathroom break match, but I do see what you're saying, Josh. Like, it is kind of thrown in the middle there, and I feel like it could get lost. That's why I brought up, maybe a Bad Bunny interaction, something to just give it a little bit more oomph, because I think the in-ring is going to be great. And I do believe Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee get the win. I think LaBar's, pretty accurate with, look, if Dom loses, we'll get to the tag match in a little bit, and of course Rhea. Some of the pieces for the Judgment Day are going to start just breaking away, and it's going to start looking less like a fully formed puzzle and more of just pieces in a box. So I'm on board with Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee winning. Let's get to another, I guess, sort of thrown together match, but this has a lot of star power in it. And specifically this show, specifically these two guys here talking about this following match with me had quite the interaction discussing one of the characters in it. So let's get to the 6-woman tag. Damage Control, Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane versus Naomi, Bianca Belair, and Jade Cargill. We discussed heavily, at length, some might call it an argument, that Jade Cargill's first match should be this, it should be that, it should be Nia, it should be Natalya. We get a 6-woman tag, and I think this is the best possible solution. So, Josh, look, I'm happy to say I was wrong, and I hope you can agree that this match is the best possible outcome for Jade's first match.
Yeah, I think so too. Whenever you think of what in the time that they've invested in Damage Control, who were kind of floating, this time last year, and you see them in a 6-woman tag match last year against Trish, Lita, and Becky. So what better way than to run it back? Whenever I see this match, I think Bianca does a lot of the heavy lifting, because I think out of the 6 women, she is the most talented in the ring in terms of athleticism, in terms of star power. Damage Control, they're what they are. They haven't ever fully sold me on them being a dominant stable, and I think it's because there's been so many ebbs and flows of them being good, them not really being spotlighted properly. But when you think of this match, it all comes down to the star power of Jade Cargill, right? You see Damage Control come out first, Naomi, then you see Bianca Belair, and then really the star power is Jade Cargill, and they make her feel like a star. I can't remember a time where a SmackDown a week or two before WrestleMania focused on somebody who has never had a quote match, aside from obviously the Royal Rumble, than they did with Jade Cargill. And Jade Cargill is absolutely everything you want. So I think you give her just the quick hits. You give her a few big moves, the pinfall. You show maybe a little bit more than what you think. But at the end of the day, this is the beginning of the end of Damage Control. And I'm not sure what happens after, WrestleMania weekend, what happens to Damage Control. But as you said about the Judgment Day potentially seeing cracks, in their foundation, this is definitely going to be a big crack in the foundation of Damage Control. Give me Bianca, give me Naomi, give me Jade Cargill for the W.
LaBar, I kind of, fall in that same camp. I think Naomi, Jade, and Bianca get the win here. And I also think that Jade likely gets, big power moves on potentially all 3 of Damage Control and likely gets the pinfall. I'm going to ask you, outside of your straight up prediction, is there a chance we see some sort of angle where, either Damage Control falters and that's the end of that, they start breaking away like Josh said? Or do we see some sort of, does Jade turn on her teammates so soon and, gain a character and progress with something forward? Or is it just going to be a straight up, win and it's nice for Jade and, we'll figure out something else for her next week on SmackDown?
I tend to believe it's probably a straight up win for Jade. This is just to make her look strong. I mean, look, she came in and took out all 3 members of Damage Control on her own, on SmackDown. So, I mean, Damage Control, like I agree. This is and they have they have women's tag titles. Here's what I don't want to see. I don't want this to be the setup for then a future SmackDown or the next PLE for Jade to be teamed with one of these women, Naomi or Bianca, and to take the women's tag team, simply because the women's tag team division and tag team titles situation has just been so snake bitten, so inconsistent, bad luck. It just does not have good perception. And so far, everything's been hitting right with Jade, from the announcing of her signing to her Rumble appearance to the announcement of her SmackDown appearance a week ago. So I'm fine if Jade just gets to stand tall and have the rub of these two other very over baby faces. I'm also fine with her standing tall and then, something, whether she straight up, stabs one of them or both of them in the back, or whether there's just a little subtle facial expression or something that leads to more, and they want to turn her heel. I mean, it is easier being younger you're younger. It is easier being inexperienced being a heel. But that said, people seem to be, for having not done much in the WWE universe, they're taking to cheering her, and they're taking to this momentum of her. So unless the company has worries of her being able to be the face in the ring, the baby face in the ring, I would ride this, until you start getting Rocky sucks, until you start getting Jade sucks, or until you start getting some kind of a natural revolt. If that was to happen, I would try to ride with her being a stud superstar.
Yeah, and I tend to believe you really could be right on a couple fronts. I really do fear the, Jade and Naomi are going to go for the tag titles, or Jade and Bianca are going to go for the tag titles. Arguably all six of these women, are pretty strong in the singles realm. Like, I'm not sure necessarily. Talking about the women's tag titles alone is that, as an entity is a whole nother episode, like whether they should be there or not. But if they're still there, someone has to hold them, of course. And I liked where they were before with Chelsea and Piper Niven, and I like that kind of dynamic. But when you go with wrestlers like this, all six of these women could easily be in any of the world title matches that we'll be talking about on the rest of the card. But I think that there could be a chance that you see like Jay got the pin. Hey, Bianca, you want to be my partner? Although I would like that if it turned into a heel thing, but I don't think they're ready for that yet. I think the fans are invested. I think she's going to get, like we all said, the power moves, probably the victory, the pinfall here. A part that I do think you nailed, though, Justin, is no matter what, even if it's not a, quote, heel turn, I would wager there will be a moment where, whether it's Jade dominating, and wow, like Bianca's like, we're here, like we can help. But if Jade just mows them all down and kind of gives a look like, look, this is my division. Like, you guys are great, but like, I'm here now. This is the storm, and it's here. I wouldn't mind that if it sets up, just some animosity. There's another, player in this game. And I think that's exciting. I think the depth in the women's division is really deep. So, I'm on board for that.
And credit to WWE for not rushing Jade. Credit.
Yes. I'm glad they didn't listen to this show.
And credit for her not facing Natalya, and also for not facing Nia Jax, like I initially thought was going to happen, because this gives Jade an opportunity to showcase her strength, but also be protected. They're not asking her to put on an 8 to 10 minute match with Nia, which I'm sure she could do. But at the same time, they're investing so much into her. So let's slow roll her out as much as possible. And there's not a lot of backlash. There's, a very, very small pocket of individuals that are saying, well, when's her first match? Why hasn't she had her first match yet? Well, there's a reason for that, because you don't fast track somebody for her first match. I think she's ready for it, but you don't need it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You make perfect sense. And those people that are like, oh, where's her first match? I think how they laid it out as like, now that we have time to look back and be like, oh, well, she had that moment in the Rumble, and sure, she wasn't like on TV regularly, but she made a little, a couple brief appearances, trying to court either Raw or SmackDown to, sign her. But outside of that, I don't think, like I just said, the depth is so deep that they didn't need Jade on TV every week. They can build her up, make her organically be a part of things. And now she's going to be in this huge match, and maybe it jettisons from there. Maybe we see her first real match, maybe, in a future SmackDown. Maybe it's at a Backlash coming up. Who knows? But I think it's pretty safe to say we all selected Naomi and Jade and Bianca to win this match. Let's get into now we're getting into some matches that I feel like have some weight to them. But I mean, there's a lot to it. But let's start off with the chaos. 6-pack tag team ladder match for the undisputed tag titles. And I'll say it right out of the gate. It has been announced that there will be both sets of Raw and SmackDown titles being held up in the air. I'm sure that's going to play into all of our finishes for this prediction. So Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest will defend against DIY, Awesome Truth, The New Day. I love this name, by the way. A-Town Down Under and New Catch Republic, which is Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I'm here for the ladder match. I feel like most of us here maybe thought, well, we're going to get the Logan Paul ladder match for the U.S. title. And a lot of things have changed, and we are not doing that. And we'll get to Logan Paul in the next episode. But we get 12 guys in a ladder match. This is very Money in the Bank-esque. They'll probably never bring Money in the Bank back to WrestleMania, unfortunately. But if you get a ladder match on the card, I think it's better for the fans. It's better for getting more people on there. And it's going to be chaotic. Justin, the fact that there's two titles, two sets of titles there, is that too obvious that, someone's going to grab one set or one belt and the other set is going to go to someone else? Is it also very obvious to you that R-Truth could grab both sets and go, well, I got them both?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obvious the fact that they're stipulating that that each pair can be retrieved separately. So, yeah, I mean, that screams to me as we're looking at the participants that one team that's winning it is a SmackDown team and one's a Raw team. They obviously feel that their depth of tag team division is enough now that they can go back to having separate tag titles. And they have the bodies, whether or not some of these tag teams are over, that's a whole other debate, So, when I look at, I do think Judgment Day's losing them. I do think that's the case. So, looking at, who on the Raw side, they're it's a comedy act, but look, people, again, they're over. So I would not be shocked if they gave Awesome Truth the Raw tag titles just to have people interested in the tag titles, because R-Truth is fun to see on camera right now. So I wouldn't put past that. And then looking on the SmackDown, I like the A-Town Down Under name as well, but I also could see Triple H and company putting some wanting to give something to Dunn and Bate here in this new team. So if I'm I can make a case for almost anybody except for Judgment Day retaining. Basically, I could make a case for anybody, but I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say Awesome Truth gets the Raw belts, and I'm going to say New Catch Republic, even though I hate that damn name, but that they get the SmackDown.
It is a bizarre name. So you're fully on board that because of the stipulation, even though it says for the undisputed tag titles, that they're going to be split up in this match?
Yeah, I mean, if they never outline that stipulation, then but they're saying it for a reason.
Right? Why would they do it? I tend to agree.
Unless they still want Priest and Balor to have a few more months of a run, and they just want to give a tag team on SmackDown some titles to work. I mean, I guess that could happen. But like I said, I feel like they've wanted the Judgment Day to break off for a while. They just kind of have slow played it until they could get to this point of the calendar.
Yeah.
I tend to agree. I think Awesome Truth for sure. Whether let's just go. Let's assume both sets of titles are going to be split here. I like the Awesome Truth to win, but I do like A-Town Down Under. I feel like you made a good point with Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, but Theory and Waller, they have so much chemistry together. I feel, and they're very similar. I've often said that I think Grayson Waller is what WWE wanted Austin Theory to be, but he's just better. But so I would say they take the titles, and then Awesome Truth gets the Raw. Josh, do you see that the same way? I think R-Truth has been, God, he's 50, 51, and he's still killing it. He's as funny as anybody on the roster, but he embraces it, so it's like organically entertaining. I think they're the right guys to take it. What say you?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that there's a time now that I think WWE is like, hey, let's throw Miz a bone here, because I mean, this guy has done everything that they've asked him to do. I think him and Truth have a very great connection together. And whenever you look at the tag team division, there's a lot of really good tag teams, and I think both titles split. It's interesting to me because I'm very surprised, being a really big fan of DIY and the entire story of Gargano and Ciampa, that they're just not getting those crowd reactions, and I know that they're
Shawn guys, they're Triple H guys, they're great wrestlers, but they're not really connecting. And I'm not sure why, because I think those are two guys that they want to be behind. But they seem like the one tag team in this match that just doesn't have the juice going into, pun intended, by the way, going into this match that could potentially become tag team champions. I do think the Judgment Day lose both titles. Man, if I had to really go for it, I would probably say Awesome Truth and Theory and Waller. I'm just not completely sold on WWE wanting Waller and Theory to be the SmackDown Tag Team Champions right now, and it's nothing about them, because I think those are two of the most entertaining guys. One, a phenomenal wrestler in the ring, one guy who can carry a feud on the mic with a lot of really great guys in WWE. So I'll go with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if New Catch Republic somehow pull it out. This ladder match with 6 tag teams, 12 guys, is going to be very interesting to see how they really script it out. But at the end of the day, I think the general consensus for us and probably most people is the beginning of the end of the Judgment Day.
By the way, can we just note too? You go a year ago, you're kicking off WrestleMania, beating John Cena, and a year later, you're like you're
barely getting on the card.
You're second at best to maybe win a tag team title ladder match.
It's wild.
Yeah. Hey, at least he's not in the Andre.
This is true. I guess that would have been the further fall from Grace.
From Grace, yeah. I mean, that's just how you could be Omos, who's having an eating contest with Otis instead of wrestling Brock Lesnar. So,
there's a bigger downfall there. There you go, Juice.
I do what I can here on the Juice Box, but I'm just, what you said, Josh. How they script it, quote unquote. The ladder spots throughout the years have been innovative, and they always try to top the last one. But with WrestleMania, and I didn't mention this at the beginning, but this is the first WrestleMania under the TKO banner. This is the first WrestleMania without Vince McMahon, as far as we know. This is a chance for WWE to say, look, we do this better than literally everybody. I know UFC's got their 300th event next week, but this is our 40th of our big event, and this is going to be something you've never seen before. They've announced how many different musical acts and how many different celebrities will probably be there. I'm looking forward to how crazy they elevate LaBar, specifically in this ladder match. I don't know what type of ladders are going to bring out, and we're far removed from the Hardys coming out at WrestleMania 33, but this is going to be something special, and I think it'll be fun. And honestly, R-Truth has been not just entertaining, but he's over. And I think a lot of fans would be thrilled to see him actually win something outside of the 24/7 title. And yeah, throw Miz a bone. He's only been the most, reliable guy in the company for like the last 10 years. So, I mean, give him, something.
Last thing on history perspective, we can move on. I find it funny too, and Josh will remember this because he was there with me. It's so crazy that over a decade, 12 years ago now, right? You have Miz and R-Truth as the top heel tag team, working against Cena and Rock, and then here we are 12 years later, and the Miz and Truth are back as a tag team, and the Rock is back, but he's the top heel.
Right, and Awesome Truth is the nostalgia act.
Yeah, what's old is new again, right? Like, that Survivor Series was so amazing to be there and seeing that tag team match, which you're like, wait a second, John, no offense at all to Miz and Truth, but it's like those two guys against John Cena and The Rock and MSG. Hey, like what? Like what is going on?
And that night, the WWE champion was CM Punk, and look who's back.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And but they were a part of a huge angle at Hell in a Cell too. Interrupting the Hell in a Cell match. I feel like looking back, of course, it is kind of funny, like Miz and R-Truth, but at the time, they believed in them, which is kind of bizarre. I mean, R-Truth, Capital Punishment 2011 went for the world title. So, hey, stranger things have happened.
Stomping Grounds of DC, right? That was the Verizon Center, Capital One, whatever it was called.
Yep, the Verizon Center.
Capital Punishment.
It's crazy. You look at Miz and R-Truth. Other than Kofi Kingston in this match, everybody else in this match was not around in 2012. So.
Yeah.
That's also another tag. That's also another
Okay.
tag team that I completely forgot to think about that could potentially win is the New Day. we spent 5
Right.
minutes talking about this match and not talking about actually the most decorated tag team in this match.
Right.
And as much as I think that they could and they should, and they hold so much prestige in the tag team division, like they're just sadly kind of an afterthought. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against them capturing the Raw titles either, but again, it goes back to like the New Day has done so much in their WWE career, but the one thing they really haven't done, aside from obviously Kofi winning at 35, is have that WrestleMania moment as a tag team. They lost against
Outside of being a host.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So that food for thought, but yeah.
Yeah, and then one more little thing. You mentioned DIY, and it's not that they're on the card. They're in this match. They easily could win the titles here, but I feel like even 5 years ago, these two guys, Gargano and Ciampa, were at the very top of the wrestling world. Even if they were in NXT, you knew like they're coming. They're going to be on the main roster. It's going to be something, and it really just has not translated. I believe that some fans would have anticipated or wanted, but I like that they're still doing it. They're still a tag team. Look, we talked about Awesome Truth, and no one really gave them as much thought as they did DIY even 5 years ago. So what's old is new again, right?
The trouble is their DIY. They're the most interesting when they're going 1-on-1 against each other.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. That Champ. They both played both parts, right? Gargano's played the good, from underneath babyface. He's also played the prick heel, and Ciampa's played the psychopath. He's also played the badass who wants some revenge on being like they've done their best work against each other. So it's like, okay, let's keep them together, but it's just not. Yeah, it's not like you said, not translating.
Can they coexist? They always can coexist, but they're better when they go against each other. And then is R-Truth going to do anything like funny? Like, is he going to do something out of whack here?
Oh yeah, he's not gonna know the rules, or he's gonna he's gonna
he's gonna bring a title out and hook it instead of grabbing it.
Yeah, or he'll bring he'll set up like a step ladder and do and try to get to the belts, or
a ladder that's clearly not high enough to get it.
Right.
Hornswoggl's ladder for WrestleMania 23.
There we go. The WLC.
Oh, all right. Let's go to now we're getting to the creme de la creme. No offense.
By the way, we just spent more time thinking about that tag team match than The Office has. I guarantee it.
We'll find out too. We'll see on Saturday when the match it's a ladder match with 6 teams, and when it goes 6 minutes, we'll go, man, we really we talked longer than the match even had.
Let's get Bruce on line. Bruce on line 1. Bruce, we just gave you 12 minutes of fodder to toss to Paul, okay?
Oh man. Well, Vince is not there. They gotta put everybody on the card. They gotta figure out something. Let's go to something that I love this next match we're gonna talk about. It's all about brother versus brother. WrestleMania 10, Owen, Brett. WrestleMania 25, Matt and Jeff. Now WrestleMania 40. Jimmy versus Jay. I absolutely love how it was 10 and it was 25 and now it's at 40. It's just like solid 15 years in between. Both those matches I felt were pretty good. I mean, Brett and Owen's considered one of the greatest, opening matches, if not greatest WrestleMania matches, in history.
Juice.
Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize to cut you off. You forgot about WrestleMania 20
and 14.
And 14, Kane and Taker. What
the disrespect?
Cracker
the
Jack
oh man,
right
you know what? Look,
just because you don't have a Brothers of Destruction T-shirt doesn't mean you just get to gloss over history there, pal.
Unreal, Juice. I'm
look, we're 30. Well, wait a second. I was gonna say we're 35 minutes into this show. It's clear that I cannot host this show anymore, so the Juice Box is now relegated to the J&J box. It's you guys can have your own show. I will log off and I'll see you guys at WrestleMania.
Unbelievable.
Hang up and listen.
I'll hang up. First time listener, first time caller. Jimmy and Jay. I'm so happy we're getting this. Although not that it's shoehorned, but they're just like, oh, we're having a match. But it's funny. Jimmy and Jay have been around forever. I mean, LaBar, you and I, 2014, interacted with them, had an interview with them in the foyer of PPG Paints Arena with their faces painted. Like,
that was the Trip Total Media entrance, by the way.
Yeah, far removed from that. They are so much more integral to any storyline, and I love that they have now, especially if you've watched the Roman documentary on A&E. I love that now. Look, Jimmy is his own character. Main event, Jey Uso. They have made both these guys seem relevant and have their own distinct personality and character. Jimmy might just be toting for the bloodline still, and Jey Uso might be, he loves the blood, but he's friends with Sammy. He's friends with Cody. He's a good guy at heart, and even if he was a part of the bloodline forever, he still sees the good in other people and tried to get out of there. So this good versus evil story here with these two brothers, I love that it's happening. I don't know what, Wayne doing something here. Go ahead, LaBar. What do you got here?
Well, what I was gonna say here is if we're removing you as host, I'm gonna pull out an old favorite. I got one for each of you. I'll start with Josh. Josh.
Yeah. Yes.
Reality check.
Okay.
This match should have happened at least 6 months ago, but they purposely held it for Mania, but it's held on too long.
Reality, because after SummerSlam, this match should have happened 2 months after. But I will say this: brother versus brother feud can go on for as long as you want it to go on for. And I think that when you look at the perspective of the bloodline, the biggest match that these two brothers could have is at WrestleMania. I would have pulled the trigger earlier. I would have pulled the trigger in Saudi. I think that would have been something that could have prolonged or even made a wrinkle in the bloodline story. So I will say reality, it should have happened sooner, but it's okay that it's happening at WrestleMania. It's just being completely overshadowed by everything else that's going on with the bloodline. And we still haven't had that big Solo moment since he debuted really at Clash at the Castle to help Roman Reigns defeat Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, because he doesn't use the name Uso on screen, I think people sometimes
Exactly.
forget. I think they know that he's part of the family tree, but they forget that he's actually the legit younger brother.
Younger brother, yeah. Yep.
All right, Juice, yours. Reality check or not? Jimmy needs this win because without it, he is ranking dead last in the power rankings of all of the bloodline.
I will say reality, and I will say that because, when you talk about it, even though Solo does not have a match on this entire weekend, I feel like Solo Sikoa might be the most important of the bloodline, not in a match, during the bloodline rules, potentially. He was the guy that helped, Cody lose last year at WrestleMania. So I feel like Solo has more importance out of all of them. Jimmy definitely feels, like if you lose this, depending on how the rest of the, weekend goes, he could be the guy that, odd guy out. And some might say he's like that now and that, main event Jey Uso and Jimmy's just an afterthought. But let's look at the rest of the weekend. I have a feeling that Jimmy could get a win on Jey and could potentially hurt Jey to where Jey cannot help Cody on night 2. That's my reality.
That would be a good boost of relevance for Jimmy.
Yeah, I think Jimmy wins. And when you look at what brother versus brother typically is, right? I mean, Owen wasn't really the bad guy, but he was the big underdog. Mania 25, I'm not talking about Kane or Undertaker either, even though, they're brother versus brother. But you look at Mania 25 and you see the over the moon popular recent former WWE champion in Jeff Hardy. You think, oh, he's going to get his comeuppance and beat his brother. And Matt won. And I think that did more for Matt than any other match in WWE because it solidified him as not just being the guy who was playing second fiddle to Jeff Hardy, and I mean, 15 years later, some could say that Matt has had a more successful career outside of WWE than Jeff. I think Jimmy wins this match. I think Solo helps him win this match. And I think it gets to a point where I don't think Jimmy is not the star, right? Like we can all, I think, unanimously agree that Jey is the breakout star between that tag team. There's one in everyone. There's Michaels over Jannetty. There's Isenberg over LaBar. I mean, there's all these tag teams that you think about.
You at least have to put 2 or 3 more teams before you sneak that in there. You can't sneak it in.
Miz over Morrison. Okay.
Yeah.
History is subjective, I think. But anyway, when I think about it,
makes it number 2 in history.
Hey, one of us is not on Busted Open. One of us is. So
Festus over Jesse. Come on.
Oh my God.
I think Jimmy at this point, he's never really had a big singles win. Jay has not won a championship because of Jimmy for many, many matches. But it goes back to, I think, in my mind, the booking of Jimmy is going to be very hurt in terms of his character if he does not win. Jay's still going to be uber over on Monday Night Raw. So that's what I break it down to, like, who has the most to benefit and who has the least to lose. And in this instance, it's Jimmy Uso winning.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm putting Jimmy as my winner for this.
I of course as well. I think Jimmy's gonna win. And like I said, I think it plays into the rest of the weekend. Let's be real, the whole weekend is Bloodline oriented. It's all staged for that. In addition to that, I do believe in the best choice would be to have Jimmy versus Jay open up night 1, because you're gonna have the Bloodline and night 2 and the Bloodline obviously on night 1, and probably winning on night 1. So you could have the first night, opening and closing, and then closing out night 2 with the Bloodline. And how great would it be? Jay Uso kicks off the night, 60,000+ fans doing the hand motions with Jay. I'm sure Pat McAfee will be doing the same. I think it'd be a great visual, a great way to kick off the night. And what better way to suck all that energy out by having Jimmy win? So looking forward to it, though. Are you guys? No yeet. If Jimmy's going to win, are you guys upset that there's no gimmick to this match? It's just a one-on-one. Do you think something should have been added to it?
I don't think so. I think there's enough, meat on the bones where it's brother versus brother. There doesn't really need to be a stipulation. But the Hardys, it made sense because they made their names as the, Team Extreme. So the Extreme Rules match was fine. Brett and Owen, obviously, no stipulation. I'm fine with it being a simple one-on-one match.
Yeah, if this was the second or third time they were facing off and you needed, adding a gimmick to put, right now, but, just like with Brett and Owen, you have so much just raw emotion that people can buy in because they know that they're actually watching real life brothers. That provides so much to the match. You don't need to gimmick it up.
Yeah, it would have been cool to have something, but I even said that potentially the match in general was shoehorned, so I'd hate for them to be like, oh, well, also we're adding a stipulation because we feel like we need to know.
But what would it be? There's already a ladder match on the same night.
Right. Well, yeah. Well,
I'm just saying, like, what a table's irrelevant. Like a last man
cage would have been the only thing I would have thought just to keep maybe Solo out of it, but.
If they made more of the build and angle, if they made it more like where Solo was choosing. This is the brother he's choosing, and so it's constantly 2-on-1 for Jay, then I guess I could see that. But yeah, I'm fine with it being straight 1-on-1. Let's face it, this match probably isn't going to have as much time as these guys want. These guys have been dreaming. These guys have been dreaming since they came out of the womb, having a 1-on-1 match on a major show, much less WrestleMania. Yeah. They probably have it in their cardio and minds that they could do an hour, but they're probably going to realistically get 15 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. It would have been, like I said, shoehorned. Oh, let's have another gimmick match for the sake of it. But even if 15 minutes, like I said, with the Andre thing, they're just happy that they're there doing it and having this huge moment. They were on the pre-shows for how many damn years on many PLEs, let alone WrestleMania. So for them to get a one-on-one at the show of shows, the 40th, the one where The Rock and Roman are having such a huge deal and their family is really the focal point of this weekend. I think it's great for them to have it. So, Jimmy across the board. Josh, is that who you said as well?
Yeah.
Yeet. Or no yeet, rather. See, I did it again. I really shouldn't be the host of this show. Let's go into the final 3 matches of night 1, all for some pretty strong implications. One is not for a title, but arguably it has the most on the line. Let's get into Gunther, Sami Zayn,
Intercontinental title. Over 600 days, Gunther has been Intercontinental Champion. Some, think that, hey, maybe he should never lose, and this is the pinnacle. He should just be the IC champ forever. Some argue, oh, well, he has to lose the IC title to eventually get to that world title. And then at the other side of it, is Sami Zayn the right guy if he's got to dethrone Gunther if this is going to happen? Could it have been Chad Gable? Sure. But outside of those two guys, personally, I don't think there was another guy, built up, ready to take out Gunther. LaBar, I'm going to pass it to you because you made a great point. When The Undertaker had his streak, if it was going to be taken out, that person had to not just be built up to that point, but be ready for a lot of great things going forward to make it worth all of the, time and effort put into the streak prior to the loss. So is Sami Zayn the right guy to defeat Gunther? And secondly, does he defeat Gunther, LaBar?
No and no. Sami Zayn has had a far better WWE career than I ever thought he would. I will be the first to admit that I thought when he got to the main roster past NXT, I thought, okay, this is, he's El Generico without the mask. What's interesting about this guy? He looks very generic. He just looks very forgettable. Credit to him that he's, he was focal point of a night of Mania last year. So I completely eat my words on that. He has gone further than I thought, and I am far more entertained by him. So I want to throw all that out there. But I don't know. I don't feel like he's the guy to be Gunther. I mean, part of it is we want to get real inside baseball. I think all three of us would agree this was not the original Gunther match for Mania. So that right there is like I can't see them ending this historic title run on a match that was an audible. I do feel like the best look that they had, if they wanted to have Gunther drop this title, the best look they had was however many months ago, but early fall when they had Chad Gable's family front row and Gable was really built up. He was having his best showings in the ring. I felt that could have just been the rocket up Gable's ass to put him in a whole different stratosphere. They didn't do it. If anything, I'm watching Chad Gable's whereabouts on this night to see if he somehow turns on Sami. And that's how Sami comes up short. But no, I think Gunther retains. I don't know who is there to beat him. I do want him to lose the title before they elevate him into the world title picture, and that's simply because I think, and I would try to give faith to Triple H, but too often I think when you have a guy have the mid-card title and then get into the world title picture, we've seen this in AEW, which drives me nuts. They all of a sudden just vacate the mid-card title, and which it makes it look like they just chuck it aside, which to me just kills all the credibility of the title, all the worth of the title. So I do want to see him do the job and drop it to somebody before he goes into the world title picture, but I don't think that's happening yet. I think it's upon us this year, but I just don't think Sami Zayn is the guy that I want to see in this run.
Right, and Josh, I'll throw it to you in a second here, but outside of Sting, going out and retiring as champion, I think that's a whole nother, way of going about it. But I definitely see your point of, I'm going to go for this other title, so forget this title that I've worked so hard for. And in Gunther's case, literally brought back prestige to this title. Over 600 days, longest reign of all time. Every match he has is just so damn good. I do think Gable was the guy at the time to do it. And I agree with you. I fear that, I don't know if this is the time to just do it. However, Gunther did say, I can't recall which match it was, or who it was against, but he's like, that was the closest I came to losing. I didn't lose, but I'm admitting that it was very close. So, I give you the credit. And I like that little vulnerability of Gunther. And that's what kind of makes me believe that Sami will win this, because regardless of how many different people we all throw out there, he has to lose this title at some point. And I think you get the moment at WrestleMania. Sami Zayn will be a 4-time Intercontinental Champion, which only roughly 15% of Intercontinental Champions have held it that many times. I think it'd be nice for him to do it. I thought Gable would be a great choice, but maybe you get a Sami and Gable feud after the fact. Josh, is Sami Zayn the guy? Would you have preferred Chad Gable in this spot?
No, I think Sami Zayn is the guy to challenge him, but I agree with everything Justin said where as much as Sami Zayn has exceeded all expectations, there's just no way for me to think, and I understand your points, Juice. I think there's a backing for Sami. Maybe not as loud as it was, February of last year, moving into Elimination Chamber in his hometown, a feel-good story where, there's maybe a 5% chance you thought about Roman losing, even though that 5% was probably 1%, and it was the people in Montreal. There's nobody on the roster right now that I say, yep, that's the guy that should dethrone Gunther. And it makes me think of something that has happened very, 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 it happened, one or two times, I think, where a Money in the Bank person has cashed in a mid-card title. I don't think it happens at WrestleMania.
Here we go. Damian Priest is going to cash in, but it's going to be on Gunther, and he'll win this time.
No, but hear me out. Not at WrestleMania.
I kind of agree with you with him winning, though.
But I think down the road, there's a chance that Damian could just say, hey, you know what? Gunther is the most dominant champion on Raw, and I just dethroned him. Because we'll talk about the World Heavyweight Championship, later. There's so many top tier main event guys where the clock is ticking for Priest to cash in, and I don't want Priest to have an unsuccessful cash in because I think Priest brings so much to the table, but I just don't see him cashing in on Cody or Drew and them ultimately thinking this is the guy, or Cody or Drew, or excuse me, Seth or Drew. There's just a very interesting dynamic with Monday Night Raw where who your heavy hitter main event people are. Seth, Drew, Cody. Punk when he's healthy, which I think, he'll probably main event SummerSlam. So the Money in the Bank is going to expire, and what better way potentially to build somebody up like Damian? He has the build, he has the physique, he has the personality, he has the opportunity, but again, we're not there yet. But if we're talking just specifically about Gunther and Sami Zayn, Sami has a good story, but his story is nowhere near as interesting as Gable's, even though I think Gable fell off after his loss in the fall. I think he's still interesting. I think he still has, he's a hell of a performer. He should not be in this spot, to your original question, but I think Gunther picks up the victory here, continues his reign. I see Gunther in a world championship match this time next year. Maybe his reign ends at a SummerSlam or heck, with all the PLEs being international, there's really any pay-per-view or any PLE that he could drop it, at, and it would make it feel important. But for this conversation, I think Gunther wins. He retains his championship, and he continues to just mow down opponents until they finally find somebody, which, again, I don't know if somebody is a cash-in like Damian or if it's somebody on that roster, because I just don't see somebody who is at the level or even near the level as a, quote, mid-card guy that can dethrone Gunther.
Well, and with the whole I would hate to I love Priest, but I would hate to see this historic IC title run end on a cash-in, which is, license to steal. I would almost say with Gunther, if you don't have anybody just yet, he got a great bit of cheers when he just was whooping the crap out of Dom in a match a few weeks ago in Raw. And when I saw that match, and Gunther is more comfortable than ever on the mic, he's almost becoming a little comedic with his. Yeah. Part of me almost wonders if there's no babyface you want to have beat him right now, and I don't think the answer is, even in NXT, I don't think we just hot shot Braun Breaker up and and have him beat or anything like that. If there's no real babyface that's ready to have beat this reign, I wonder, do you try to transition Gunther as where the fans start to respect the hell of him and maybe even break him away from Vinci and Kaiser, or do whatever you can do to let him be, let him stay the same, but he's basically now going against heels. And so people are just cheering him because he's just a badass ring general in the ring, and they wanted to see him beat this other heel. Like, that could then give you a whole set of fresh opponents. It's kind of something similar I'll say with Rhea here in a second, but I almost wonder, could you do that? Because you're right, Josh. There's a lot of international PLE, so there's times later on. I know he's Austrian technically. That's right there next to Germany. It's so they're going to Berlin in I think like September for a big show. So like that would be a show where maybe you don't want him losing there, but that would be a show where you want him in the position to be moving up into the world title main event. So, but still 6 more months where he could carry this IC title. So I think all these possibilities need to be put on the table. I'm like Josh said, with more reasons. I just can't see Sami Zayn being that guy.
Right. I have just a couple points because you make a lot of great, points with all things considered. You don't want him to vacate the title necessarily. Could you see him just taking the IC title and challenging whoever the world champion is, winning like Warrior and Hogan there, and then just kind of then vacating the IC title because he is the world champion?
No,
I don't think that devalues the IC title
like that.
really.
No,
Really? If you turn him into a face, who's going to beat him? Like, is any like could it be an NXT guy? Like,
well, you need to build somebody up for it. But you started this whole pitch with acknowledging, and I appreciate the plug. You acknowledge what I said on Busted Open, whereas I was comparing. This is equity. This is an inheritance that you built up. So just like it was with Taker Streak, you want to make sure somebody gets the rub and inherits that inheritance properly. By him vacating, nobody gets to do the inheritance. By vacating, that's like making the belt go to foreclosure to the bank, and you're having an open bid.
Yes, but I agree with that. But what you're exchanging is that Gunther is even more. I don't know. It elevates Gunther. It devalues the IC title, I guess, in a way. But I don't know. It's a very tough situation. Let's just acknowledge the elephant there. If it was supposed to be Brock and Gunther, would Brock have won?
No, I don't think the IC title would have been on the line in that match.
Huh. LaBar?
See, that's hard. Josh has said that.
Because what would the match be? Like, why would you have the match? Just because it's a great match and you had an interaction at the Rumble, I guess.
Yeah, I'll disagree. I'll disagree with Josh here. I think the title would have had to been on the line because one, I wouldn't have seen Gunther dropping it. They weren't going to have him lose prior to working Brock at Mania, but I don't really think they would have had Brock beat the IC champion. I think it just would have been the most impressive. It would have been booked as, this is the most formidable opponent Gunther's ever had in this historic run. Here's all of Brock's accolades. Brock broke the streak. He's already broke one streak of taking. It would have been
oh my God! All the equity continues to go to Brock.
Yeah, it would have been a great build, but I still think Gunther would have beat him. Which again goes back to my point of I don't see them having him drop it at Mania to Zayn. Then they've probably never had it planned for him. Now that I'm talking this out, they probably never had a plan for him to drop this by Mania. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to buy into Zayn being the guy.
My only other thing, and I guess we can talk about it maybe on for the night 2 of it all, but of course something Josh and I have been talking about every single PLE, is the longest Money in the Bank been held just until the day after WrestleMania with Dolph? Is that the longest it's been since it's been its own pay-per-view? Because even at the WrestleMania era, it never went from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. The longest was at New Year's Revolution in January.
Yeah,
because
I think that's right.
The longer it goes, it's like, we're almost into unknown territory of, well, he's had it for this long and still nothing.
Sandow had that unsuccessful, but he cashed it in the fall, and Money in the Bank that's always a summer paper. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Dolph would have been the longest. Yeah.
I just find it interesting because with the longer it goes, because I'm kind of torn whether it would be a disservice. Oh, well, what didn't Charlotte cash in, or was a Royal Rumble to go against the NXT champion? Didn't that happen?
NXT champion was Rhea at WrestleMania, the pandemic. That's when she won the Rumble.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, did that devalue it because she wanted to do that? Like, why would the Money in the Bank? Because Gunther, arguably outside of Roman Reigns, is like, I would say Gunther's a more formidable opponent than Seth Rollins. So Priest cashing in on Gunther is like an uphill battle, and like, why wouldn't he want to try for the top dog outside of Roman?
But also to counter what LaBar was saying about Gunther getting the respect from the crowd and then, transitioning to a face, whether it's next month or, in 2 to 3 months, whatever it is, if he does transition into a face, what better way than heel Damian Priest to cash in?
Well, that's what I was going to piggyback on is if Gunther does turn into a face, does that mean, are you okay with a dirty way, not Dirty Dom necessarily, but like a dirty way of him losing the title? Because I feel like you'd want to have him lose it admirably in just like a great match and shake his hand. And
I don't like the idea of the Money in the Bank ending this title.
They painted themselves into a corner here because they really haven't built anybody up like they have with Gunther, just
How about
because
this?
Gunther's so damn good.
Bring back Sheamus. What's he been doing? Is he re-signed yet?
But also, he's done everything, like him.
So he can't. Okay, but no one has beaten Gunther in this streak. So I mean, that would be something. No.
You know who I would have? I would almost have more interest in like a Randy Orton, quite honestly. And I know he's
wow. Okay.
But
well, he's a veteran.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Gunther could be a legend. That's a legend killer thing.
I think we can all agree that there's not really one person that we think like.
That's what's tough.
Guy.
I tend to agree that Braun Breaker could, but how long can you build that? You have to build him up on the main roster, let alone what he's already accomplished. You'd have to do it almost again.
He's also on SmackDown though, Juice. So
yeah, but I mean, okay, but that doesn't mean that he's on SmackDown forever. I mean, my God, if he wanted to, I want to challenge Gunther, you think Gunther's going to say no? I don't want to fight you because I'm afraid. Like they'd make the match happen if they wanted it.
Yeah. I'd say this: if the Drew CM Punk stuff didn't become so interesting the last few months, and so much of it's a credit to Drew for all of his social media trolling and stuff. If that didn't happen, if this was just Drew versus Seth, this is our option too because Punk got hurt. I mean, I would easily make the case that Gunther's IC title match is the second most interesting title match behind Roman and Cody. The Drew match is only there because the CM Punk implication in my mind.
Yeah.
That being said, would Drew have had a chance had he not had this match that he's going to have? Because it would have been Punk Rollins, right? So where would Drew have fit in? Could Drew have? That's why I mentioned Sheamus, because they had the triple threat last year. Well, Drew and Sheamus, out of all of the guys that are currently on the roster, seem more formidable, bigger dudes that I would buy.
And also, and I watched the triple threat match today, actually, with Drew, Gunther, and Sheamus. I mean, the one storyline that they had there that might have been forgotten is the IC title is the only title that has eluded Sheamus' entire career.
That's why I brought it up.
Man, look at you. Man, we spent 20 minutes on this.
Not as long as the tag title match, though.
I mean, I don't know if you like Bruce or Juice Springsteen more, but hell, both of them are really, really giving us some stuff to think about.
That's right.
I mean, it's a 600 plus. I mean, it's the longest ever reign. I mean, it's worthwhile to talk about. I mean, it's
of course. But I don't know. I love the best part is
the more Josh is saying it actually. And Juice, I know you brought it up, but Josh, that's actually if I forgot about that trivia. That is the one title that's eluded Sheamus. If he's healthy and can go, that actually would make for a very fresh situation.
Because that's been up in the air.
Berlin?
Right. Well, that's been up in the air. Is he even? I think he was injured, but is his contract up? The rumors were like, oh well, could he stay? Will he go? And that's why I brought him up. Like the last thing I recall with him is him and Edge having their final little match there. But I buy him.
He's not going anywhere.
You think? Oh, like he's going to stay with WWE.
He's a WWE for life.
Stephen Fairley's not all elite.
Yeah, no,
This is a kayfabe podcast.
If he's not if he's not active or Raw and SmackDown, he's on a Legends deal or a Performance Center guy to help train. He's not. Yeah, he's not.
Yeah. I'm kind of on board. I talked myself into thinking that whenever Sheamus comes, okay, Sami Zayn's not going to win. Gunther's going to have it, and then they're going to have a match with Gunther and Sheamus. Sheamus takes it.
There we go. There we go. We just booked the territory. We're fine.
There we go.
Let's go. All right, let's continue booking this thing. We got 2 matches left on night 1. This is a match that I'm looking forward to, although I really did think, although we might see it next year, that it would be Bianca Belair in this spot, but we are getting Becky Lynch challenging Rhea Bloody Ripley for the Women's World title. This is Becky Lynch, the last time I attended WrestleMania, Becky Lynch won the first ever women's main event of a WrestleMania. It started after midnight. How could I forget? And it's a huge moment. It's a legendary moment. Becky Lynch obviously will be in the Hall of Fame someday. She just released her book. So she's a bona fide legend, veteran for, at this stage, which is crazy that, the 4 horsewomen came in arguably 10 years ago, and now they're vets in the business. But now uphill battle, Rhea Ripley. It's kind of the current versus the former. And I I just think Rhea Ripley is going to be the only portion of Judgment Day that continues the dominance. And I'm going to say Rhea Ripley retains, even though there's a book, even though Becky, has Rhea's maybe number and fought with her on the Ariel Helwani show and this and that. Josh, is this the time for Rhea to lose the title? Because I don't think so.
No. Rhea's going to retain. And it comes back to like what I think about the paths of these two women, because Becky has been so successful, right? WrestleMania 35 winning. I eliminate the pandemic, year because I haven't watched it since, to be honest with you. And then obviously Becky, in the 6-women match last year, but also lost against Bianca at 38. So Becky has been kind of a 500 superstar in WWE at WrestleMania for pretty much her entire career. Even going back to WrestleMania 32, losing in the triple threat match. I think what you see here is more of WWE knowing that they already have an established star that whenever they want to put the title back on Becky, they can. But they know that Rhea is head and shoulders above everybody else. She doesn't need to do much. She doesn't need to talk much. She doesn't need to dress, flamboyantly, or maybe not flamboyantly, but over the top like Becky has in years past. I'll keep this short and sweet. Becky will not get hurt again. Will not get hurt with a loss. Will overcome odds. Maybe, she gets sent to SmackDown, if there's a draft in the summer. There's no way Rhea loses this title in my mind, because if Rhea loses this title after 1 year, yeah, you can have rematches and things like that, but she's kind of like Gunther. There's really nobody that WWE has done to build women up that could be on the same level as her. And as much as I think Becky is a really great, performer, personality, whatever you want to call it, she's just still not on that level of Rhea in the ring. And the physical presence of Rhea is just so interesting to me, and I don't know who takes that title from her, but I wouldn't be shocked if she holds that women's championship for another year. It may be in 3 months, 4 months at SummerSlam, whatever. Maybe she is competing against men. Maybe she is competing against Dom Mysterio, because it's inevitable that Rhea, who is already a face, no matter who she aligns herself with, she's going to be a full-fledged face in 2-3 months. And I think that is just because of how popular she is, because how realistic she is as a champion, let alone the women's champion.
She's gonna be a full-fledged. She's gonna be a full-fledged face this Saturday. Philadelphia is not going to be booing Rhea Ripley, barring unless she comes out and hikes her tights up and gives a stink face to the Philadelphia Eagles flag. And even then, those weirdos in Philly might cheer. She is going to be the number one babyface in this match, and I hope that they are prepared for it, and Becky's prepared to work as a heel. Like Josh said, and I completely agree, it is very much a Gunther situation. There's nobody that just makes sense to beat her, so keep it rolling, and maybe even consider that she's on the other side of the locker room now, and you have a whole new, fresh lineup of opponents for her. There's nobody there right now. Maybe in some time, maybe a year from now or whatever. But maybe we are having a conversation that, okay, they built Jade Cargill up to where that's an interesting one to knock off, and Jade's ready to get that rub. Maybe, but obviously that's off in the distance for right now. Rhea, you do not. I mean, you keep it going with Rhea. It's just if my first WrestleMania, as you guys know, and I think back this time, it was Mania 17 in 2001. And on that show for the women's match was Chyna as a very over babyface at this point. She was no longer the scary enforcer. She was out. She had done Playboy. She was out smiling. She was a charismatic babyface. Came out and shot the little laser thing or whatever. She beat Ivory in a squash. I've often looked at Rhea and said that if Chyna was, if you took that Chyna and if you put her in today's climate where the women are as athletic as they are and are given the legitimacy that they are in terms of division, Rhea is doing what Chyna. Rhea is what Chyna would be in terms of her physical dominance and in terms of the sneaky sex appeal, in terms of the cheekiness that she has with her social media. And you got what I did there. Like that's what I look at this as. But yeah, Rhea's not dropping this. If she does drop it, then tune in to Bust It Open for a meltdown.
Yeah, you guys laid it out pretty well. I don't think it's out of the question that we see Rhea versus Dom at some point. I mean, damn, would that not be amazing for SummerSlam? And it would be believable. It's not like Rhea's going against Roman. It's very feasible. It's a storyline that has been around for how long now? And what better way? And I think we've all kind of touched on this, that if Dom is the one to break away, I mean, he's already the most hated person in the entire company. I mean, what more can you ask for? Go ahead.
I think I've been calling for a while. I think there's a money angle, especially if we want to make Rhea especially if we want to like tout from the rooftop. Rhea's now the good guy, cheer for her. I think there's a money angle in Dirty Dom doing Rhea dirty and like, cheating on her. I hate to kill our Mania prediction buzz here. I've been getting too real. I don't know if it would be the wisest thing in a time where WWE's trying to navigate the waters of these allegations with Vince and such. Yeah. I don't know if having an intergender match would be the best optics. We all know the storyline, and it's a great story of Dom and Rhea and how much history in the last couple of years. But some mainstream media just dropping in with no context, just looking for something spicy, I think that would just be a problematic look.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair, though. Go ahead.
That's a fair assessment, Justin. But at the same time, doesn't the optics change when she inevitably beats Dom?
It's that same. Yes, Josh, you and I agree with you, and you and I
like leading up to it, maybe.
But leading up to it, and it's the same optic conversation of when you have a character like a Eugene, pulling back here, you have a character who's being portrayed as mentally slow and handicapped, and he's being picked on and this and that. Yes, the wrestling people, we all will fight back and push back to the critics and say, watch the story get told. He's going to get his back on his bullies. He's going to stand up for himself. He's going to show that he is, we know the feel good story, but it's getting people who want to drop in and just take a soundbite or take a clip. And that's the problem. That's what you fight against. So,
and that's not what they want, like you said. I mentioned this being the first, huge Mania and huge, big deal for this new venture. And why would they want to, potentially harm that or put any sort of, dent in that just months after the fact by doing, even though again, like you said, man, all the wrestling fans would be on board because we get it, but that's not what everybody else sees from the outside. Go ahead, Josh.
No. Yeah, no, I understand that, and I agree. I get that. I get the optics leading up to it. But again, I think for me, it's more of WWE. There's going to be that small pocket. Absolutely, I completely understand that. But then you go back and think about even with Ronda, beating Triple H or the suplex or whatever, the stuff she did to Triple H at WrestleMania 34. Because she was so believable as a badass, as a woman who could beat men, that there might be that same kind of dynamic with Rhea and Dom where it's the women have the power, so like as much as you think like, oh, there's going to be some potential negative publicity from the complete outsiders, you're still spotlighting powerful women. And I think at a time now where you see, again, not completely comparative, but you're seeing, women's college basketball outperforming in television ratings and interest with the male-female demographics than the NCAA men's tournament or the NBA, things like that. What better time would it be than now? But I understand. I understand the whole with Vince's allegations. It's difficult to navigate those waters. But if anybody could navigate those waters where they would have the woman look stronger or the woman come out on top, it's probably Triple H, a guy that has kept his pulse on everything that's happening inside of WWE and outside.
And Josh, you have to know, though, and remember, it was a tag match with Ronda, Triple H, Kurt, and Stephanie. It was a mixed tag match, and the interaction happened. So I'm in agreement on both. And it is funny because even though we're talking about it as like all these outsiders would say it and wrestling fans would defend it, we're actively defending it by being like, yeah, but like, look, it's kind of like this. And like, I think they can pull it off. But let's do that. Maybe there's a way that they could get some sort of a tag match together. I don't know who Rhea would tag with. I mean, all that stuff is down the line. We're talking about a feud that might not even happen.
Yeah.
But I think there is a way, and I will agree though, Josh. You did Triple H. I've been touting his success not on tout though. That his regime, it lasted about 15 seconds. His regime and all these PLEs under his watch have been so crisp, and like it seems like almost every decision is like, wow. How many times can we predict this or that? But whatever comes out is like, you know what, that was the right call. Like when in years past, it's like, what the hell were they thinking? And it was just like, well, another Vince call or another, whoever. Now it seems like they kind of are on the right path, and I do agree that they probably could walk that line. I'm just unsure. Like LaBar said, yeah, it's a very slippery slope that I'm not sure they would want to navigate, even though I'm sure they're confident they would successfully navigate it.
Josh is right in the way he laid it out, and Triple H probably could do it. The toughest thing would be for him to do this. This would be one of those where he would have to get the okay from the TKO board, and I could see all of them having a huge trepidation and just not understand. They're saying,
Well, what you got to do is how you book it. Rhea would have to challenge Dom.
Well, yes, but let me ask you this: is it more believable because Rhea like physically is? I mean, she's more muscular. She's more. I mean, in my money, she's more athletic. She is more of a presence on television physically, and we all know that this is a very superficial in terms of I guess superficial is the word I'd use. She looks like she could kick 50% of the wrestlers' asses. Like she looks like she can be somebody that can fight somebody, much to what Charlotte was for years. She had that physical presence where she could compete with the guys. I think that physical presence of her, like, no offense to any other woman, but like if you say, oh, Becky is going to fight a male, or Liv Morgan, whoever, like she, and maybe the only other person that is physically believable from the perception of the viewer is her and Jade, right? Like those are the only two people I can look at and say that girl can kick any guy's ass.
Maybe Nia Jax.
Yeah, maybe Nia.
Oh yeah, Nia too. Yeah.
No, Rhea looks like she could put both guys of New Catch Republic in her pocket. I mean,
that's right.
I mean, she's bigger than Finn. You know what I mean? Like she looks more of a presence than Finn, and Finn's a world champion. So that's a conversation that could be 6 months down the road. But yeah, it's just something to think about.
It's just ultimately because I think we're all in agreement that it could be done. It would be great, and it would probably be successful at a certain point. It's all about how they would book it. Like how do we get to that to where once it's announced, it's like, oh, okay, this doesn't look, from because you have to go from the perspective of an outsider when you're booking things where, you can book Gunther and Sami Zayn. It's a wrestling match. We know this is happening. But if an outsider goes, oh, a girl versus a guy, and do they do that still? Like, what are we doing? You gotta somehow describe it to the outside audience. So we'll see. But I think Rhea's going to retain. Is that everybody's choice? We all think she's going to retain here?
Yep.
All right. We finally made it. Night one. This is arguably they're saying this is the biggest tag match in WrestleMania history. I do love that WrestleMania 1 had a main event of a tag match, and we are getting the same here on night one of WrestleMania 40. And it is the Bloodline, The Rock, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, Seth freaking Rollins. If Rhodes and Rollins win, the Bloodline, all of its members will be barred from ringside during the undisputed WWE Universal title match on night 2 between Cody and Roman. However, if Rock and Roman win the match on Saturday night, then the night 2 match will be held under, quote, Bloodline rules, which outside of it being Falls Count Anywhere, because I think they would name that, this is going to be anything goes, weapons, interference, what have you. Before we just dive crazy into this, I'm going to just say it. I think it's very obvious that the Bloodline will win this. It's all about the intrigue of how they win it. Does The Rock do something? Does The Rock do all the heavy work and Roman gets the pin, or vice versa? And if that's the case, and it's not just a clean win from the Bloodline, does that start the shift of Rock and Roman to where we, eventually get to their match down the line? Is the seeds planted here, or is it just a clean bloodline win? Josh, I'll start with you.
Man, yeah, I think the bloodline wins. As much as I want to see Cody and Seth pick up the victory here, so it's, for the first time in however long, Roman's by himself on the island with no help. I think what they're trying to do, what they've tried to do over the past year is Cody overcoming every obstacle. Whether it's the bloodline, whether it's Brock Lesnar, whatever has been thrown at him, he's been able to overcome. So I think that's the logical way to go about this. But I do think you'll see a few things here. I think you'll see friendly fire. I think you'll see Roman and Rock have some miscommunication. I think you'll see Seth and Cody have miscommunication. My biggest thing about this tag match is if they're going to book night 2, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you don't want both main events to just be so convoluted where you have all of these outside people, determine the outcome of the match. And that's almost what they did last year with the Usos and Sami and Kevin. They both, the 4 of them eliminated themselves, and ultimately Solo came out and, was the final nail in the coffin for Cody. So it kind of made sense, but it was still a little convoluted, and I don't want that to happen night 2, but I think that's what they're going to do because Cody will, in my opinion, we'll talk about this, could overcome that. But I think at this match, you need to see some friendly fire. You need to see Roman and Rock not on the same page in the ring, because I do think there's very small seeds have been planted where you're not sure who's going to turn. And if they don't turn on one another, there's a miscommunication, things like that. But overall, I think to get the intrigue for night 2, if you need more intrigue, which I don't need more intrigue, but they're going to intrigue it by, the bloodline standing tall and them saying Cody is 0 for 2 in main events. He hasn't been able to capture that big victory yet. So I think that's where they lay out and end night 1 with the bloodline standing tall and you thinking, crap, here we go again, Cody not being able to overcome the bloodline.
LaBar, I'll pass the buck to you. Before that, though, I know, Josh, you love gear, and I'm going to transition this into LaBar here. Will Seth Rollins, because he's clearly the non-focal point of this entire thing somehow, even though he is a world champion, to gain a little bit of an edge? We've seen him do it to Cody. We've seen him do it to Roman. We've seen him do it to Rey Mysterio. Is Seth Rollins going to pull off the Rocky Maivia outfit for this match to throw off the bloodline, complete with Jerry Curl?
I mean, his part of his deal is his wardrobe, so I think that would be a great touch. It'd be a great touch. And I mean, look, and obviously we all agree he's kind of the, he's the third wheel in this, so it would help just give him a little boost right there in the moment. I agree with a lot of what Josh said. I'm looking for 2 things to happen in this match. First off, I agree, Rock and Roman win, because I'm looking for 2 things. The first being whether Cody is going to win on night 2 or whether Cody is going to lose on night 2, it needs to be the steepest mountain possible. So that way, if he does win, he climbed the steepest mountain possible. Or if he loses and comes up short again, and that's a whole conversation of what's going on, then you can say he came up short on the steepest situation, so he had to fight bloodline rules after losing a night earlier in a match. So I'm looking for Rock and Roman to win for that. The other thing I'm looking for the match to result in Seth to be badly injured, to therefore make it that much more of a daunting proposition for him defending his title the next night against Drew, which we'll talk about, but that just seems the most logical, is to just really sell the fact that Seth, again, to Drew's commentary the entire time, you couldn't just keep your nose out of your business. I wanted you to be the best you could possibly be at Mania. And Seth's going to hobble into his match, with one good leg or whatever it is they do. So those are the 2 things I'm looking for. And I would hope that they do limit outside interference and try to keep it to these 4 for this match on night 1. Because, yes, if night 2 is bloodline rules, we're going to see everybody. We're going to see Heyman. We're going to see Solo. We're going to see probably Jimmy or Jay. Maybe we see a new bloodline member. Maybe we see Austin, John Cena, The Undertaker, Triple H. I think it's gonna be a big old schmoz night 2. So I would try to keep this more grounded for night 1 with just the participants of the match.
And Josh, before you inevitably have a rebuttal there, I mentioned it with the Jay and Jimmy interaction. If you think Seth's gonna get hurt, maybe Jay, if Solo, or if Solo comes out and helps Jimmy defeat Jay, if Jay's hurt, if Seth's hurt, Cody's got nobody on night 2 that could really realistically help. Drew could win the title too off Seth, and just so many different things could happen to where Cody literally has the steepest mountain to climb with no one seemingly to help him. And I think it sets up for an amazing night 2. Josh, so you agree? No outside interference. You would prefer it all on night 2. Do you see something where Seth gets injured here? Do we see an angle like that? Hell, could you imagine Seth getting injured early on in this match and it being just a 2-on-1 and like a very obvious just win for the Bloodline to really just doubt everybody for going into night 2?
I don't think it's an obvious win for night 1, but I do think everything LaBar said is going to happen. The fact that the big storyline for Seth and Drew, aside from the CM Punk interaction, is him trying to do too much. And that's been the story for him since even Shinsuke Nakamura was an opponent for him at, Payback. What is, his back, and he's, working too hard. He's injured. He's hurt. Seth has taken this championship to the highest level he possibly could. So there's no doubt he's going to have some sort of injury angle after night 1. I think night 2, we'll dive into in a minute, is the fact that Drew is going to finally get his moment, which I'll still die on this hill by saying Bobby Lashley beating him at WrestleMania 37 was a horrible decision. It did nothing for either guy. I mean, hell, Lashley was barely on the WrestleMania 38 card, and Drew was relegated to facing Baron Corbin because he damaged his car or whatever the hell, whatever that storyline was. That was ridiculous. Or gender. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I can't remember, but that's my point, is Drew's finally going to get his moment. And I think the Drew Seth match is a short match because of the injury that Seth sustains on Saturday. So everything LaBar said, I can see happening. It makes sense. It ties up a lot of loose ends, and it makes you think that the workhorse needs to be just put out. He needs to be put out and needs to take some time off, come back. And I think LaBar said this on Sunday on Busted Open, is I like Seth. He's a hell of a performer. I agree. He's just not relatable. And in the world of professional wrestling, you need to be connected somehow to the fans aside from just the simple song. Seth's not relatable. Seth needs to go away and come back as a relatable person, somebody who has battled through injury and has worked his butt off to be at the top of his craft. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for WWE and for Seth to reset.
Additionally to that, do you, and this could be to either of you, do you think Seth Rollins works better as a face or a heel?
Ooh, man, his heel run was just not that great. Oh, man. I don't know. He's good at both, but not great at both.
Because what you said, even if he's not great as a heel, you really, and I know you outside of not being relatable, but you mentioned, look, the song is like really all he has is a face that's like a guarantee that he's being cheered. Like there's not much else.
In his career, Seth Rollins, I've understood him more. I've related to him more when he's been a heel. When he's been a hired mercenary for the Shield, and the origin for Heyman and Punk, okay, he's there for the money to cause chaos and get paid. He's there to do his job. And then when he sold out to Triple H and them, okay, he's there to be the corporate champ, to be the mother. Like it was all things I could get. But once the song stops, I have nothing to engage with him.
Yeah, that's a good point, LaBar. And I compare him very similarly to Batista, because Batista as a face, it was like, the Saliva song hit. You were excited to see this guy come out. He won the world championship, but then meh. And he really didn't hit his peak of interest until he came back as just this, quote, Hollywood douchebag, right?
Until he told Rey Mysterio he was going to rip his head off.
Yeah, but it took a while for him to really dive into that. Seth as a heel was not good. The Monday Night Messiah was not appealing to me. So like he has ebbs and flows of his career where there's something. I mean, even going to WrestleMania 35 where he beat Brock Lesnar, it was not about him being a face. It was about people just wanting Brock Lesnar to lose. You know, like it was nothing really about Seth Rollins. It was more about like, all right, we don't want Brock here. Get him the hell out of here.
And that was a sprint of a match. Was that not the opener?
It was the opener, yeah. And it took like 4 minutes of like outside shenanigans before the match actually started. So, but I compare him to that Batista because he has been good in both realms. Good as a face, good as a heel, but he hasn't gotten to that Batista heel level in my mind. I mean, hell, even when Batista came back for 35, he was unlikable. Like nobody wanted him to be back. Heck, even I guess even WrestleMania 30, really, when you think about it. But there's so many outliers there with Daniel Bryan and the fans really, sabotaging the main event and that storyline, similar to what they did this year with Cody. He's good in both realms, but not great as one or the other.
Wow, Josh, that's a great call. I didn't think about this, but you just said that. What a great call. You have Batista. I think back to you and I in Detroit watching him at Mania 23.
Yep.
He was coming off of, the company wanted. He's coming off of Evolution, and I think the company thought that him breaking off of that was going to maybe, I don't want to say be easier for him, but but I compare that and then we look, Seth, he's the one that he breaks off of the Shield first. I never even thought about those two comparisons. That's interesting, actually.
Oh, well, good. You can use that on Busted Open if you'd like. So,
well, I'll use that. Thank you. Co-writer credit.
You first heard that insight here on the Juice Box, so even though I'm not hosting the show by the end of it, but
Juice, your angle is your podcast is free. You do have to subscribe to SiriusXM to hear Busted Open. So.
Of course, that's right.
That's your angles. I'm giving everybody the free dress rehearsal. Right.
I'll listen for that code credit, by the way, Saturday and Sunday on Busted Open. So just an FYI, I'll be listening, LaBar, like I always do.
You'll be asleep in Philadelphia. Shut up.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, aren't you coming on at like 9 in the morning? No way.
Both mornings, yeah.
There's no.
That's why I'm not going to Philly. I mean, our wonderful Busted Open crew, of course, gave me the invite, but once it was all kind of laid out that I'm doing both mornings, I'm like, well, by the time, especially for Sunday, by the time Mania ends Saturday night, and then the press conference, which I know we're going to need sound, we're going to use the sound from the next morning. By the time I then get out of that and back to a hotel and the adrenaline dies down and I get to sleep, that's a very short turnaround. So I would rather just be at the studio and just do it that way.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And then again, like I think I mentioned off air, you can take notes. It almost seems like you're laid back. You don't have to worry about, like you said, the adrenaline. Like you're gonna go, if you go to the show, you're so like amped up. Like
I'm gonna get out of the show. I'm gonna pour myself a vodka Sprite. There's a whole like downtime to like land the plane. So.
Oh, brother. All right. Well, I think we're all in agreement, though. The Bloodline are going to take this and set up chaos for night 2. Is that pretty clear?
Yep.
Well, I really enjoy how they've set this up. All, as they've noted, Cody did note that this was not the original plan. And regardless of what the initial plan was, whatever the hell Cody was going to do if he wasn't challenging Roman, I prefer what is going on right now. The Rock has been on another level as this, quote, final boss. I think his work has been great. Seth is a background character. Roman seems almost like a background character at times in this, but we'll get to him on night 2 for the coup de grace of it all. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this first night 1 prediction show of WrestleMania 40 here on the Juice Box with myself, Josh Isenberg, and Justin LaBar. Catch us tomorrow for night 2 predictions of WrestleMania 40 right here on the Juice Box.
That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.